There are a lot of birds that can adapt to life in cities, but pigeons might be the smartest. Hi, I'm here with Minute Earth, and even though they've gotten a bad rap since, the plague, and also because they poop everywhere, they're actually pretty intelligent. Like they're smarter than your average city bird. They can find their way back to their nest after being displaced. They can recognize themselves in the mirror. But pigeons in urban environments don't exactly look different from one another, nor do they live in environments that are particularly stunning. So scientists have had to get creative in order to study how pigeon smarts help them survive in cities. And in one study, at least some of them seem to understand that a human pointing is an instruction. And what they found was that the pigeons' movements looked a lot like random walks, which is interesting. And they had to keep all this information in their noggin, while also keeping track of where they were in relation to that. Food and people and cars in a dynamic environment that was constantly changing. Okay, not actually a box, but like a room with 4 walls that contained a projection of a virtual environment. So like a video game. So the birds could walk around in the room, and the virtual world would respond accordingly. Like if they walked to the left, the virtual bird would walk to the left. Essentially, these birds are little robots that poop. And in this virtual world, the researchers changed the position of objects from day to day. But after a few days, the birds had learned where everything was. The pigeons were better at finding the food than the starlings were, suggesting once again that they're smarter on average than your typical city bird, because random walks are often used to model the movement of molecules in physics. But molecules are usually much smaller than pigeons. And it turns out that in order for the pigeons to appear to move randomly, they had to memorize a whole lot of information about their environment. But it turns out they might be especially good at something else, navigating large, complex environments. They can use the knowledge they already have to learn new things and adapt to new environments. Thank you for watching this episode, which was brought to you with the help of our patrons. If you'd like to help us make more videos about pigeons and other fascinating subjects, you can go to our support page to learn more. And that's why they're the world's foremost urban bird. They're basically the Larry Ellison of the avian world. Now, this is unlike a nature documentary where we can just let the stunning visuals speak for themselves, because there aren't any stunning visuals. In one study published in 2019, researchers at the University of Oxford set up a bunch of feeding stations in and around London. Some were on top of buildings, others were tucked into windowsills or perched on ledges. Basically, they attached tiny little backpacks to the pigeons that recorded the locations of where the birds went and where they spent their time. And after following these birds for a while, the researchers realized that the pigeons weren't randomly gobbling up food. They were systematically working through the feeding stations, like they knew where all the food was, and the birds had to figure out how to get to them. There were about 36,000 feeding stations set up across 48 sites. The pigeons had to travel up to 20 kilometers between them. The team used a technique called geolocative tracking, and in another study, researchers tracked the movements of over 300 pigeons across 13 sites in both London and around Paris. Like they needed to know where all the cars were so they didn't get run over, where the people were so they didn't get well eaten, and where the food was. But in order to really test whether pigeons are smarter than other city birds, the research team did an experiment where they put a bunch of European starlings and rock pigeons in a virtual reality box. And the room had a bunch of objects in it, some useful like food and water, and others not so useful like a fake plastic plant. But these studies suggest that pigeons are more than just smart. They're also flexible. So the next time you see a pigeon, remember, don't be jealous. Be inspired. They're basically little robots that poop.